Hey everyone, welcome to the Free Assange Vigil. This is week 64, day 4. My name is Steve Boykinen. I am joined by as many people as we could get who are hanging out with us in DC for the first week because it's these guys' last night there. Um, so we can go around and introduce everyone in just a moment, but let me go ahead and read the numbers as they stand right now. We have 3,580 days of illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange, 534 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the United Kingdom for a $4.2 billion IMF loan. Um, Today was the fourth day of the third week of the extraordinary rendition show trial of Julian Assange. 1,210 days of incarceration in federal custody for Reality Winner. The plus side is that Chelsea Manning is vastly approaching 200 days of freedom with 191. And with that, I will kick it over to Andrew, and then we can go around the room here.
Yeah. Hi. It's pretty crazy that it's already been 3 weeks at this point. We got here literally 3 weeks ago today. Was our first action outside of the Capitol building. So just thinking back, it feels like it's been like 6 months. So I just want to thank everybody for getting us here, for helping us have all these actions take place, and then supporting us as we've gone through it.
Yeah, I honestly can't believe it's already been 3 weeks, but it's also been like the longest 3 weeks of my life. But I'm really thankful to have been able to have this experience, and I miss the people who are back at home. But I'm kind of glad that we're getting to reconnect in this chat. But it was really great hanging out with everybody and being able to come together for Julian. And it's if you haven't been able to do that, meet the song supporters in real life, like it's definitely meaningful to find people with like minds. But I would definitely ask that if you can get together with people in your community and start that up, it's definitely well worth it.
How are you doing, Daniel?
I'm good. Thank you all for having me. It's good to see you guys again. I couldn't find my Action for Assange shirt. It's in the laundry, unfortunately. But Kimber made us some awesome shirts.
I gave mine to a hobo.
Really?
I didn't do that. I didn't. I have it somewhere.
There's some quality shirts, but yeah, thank you all for having me, and just thanks, number one, to all the people that donated to make it possible. I mean, it was so awesome being in DC, and like Kimber said, being with like-minded people, like our tribe. It was very, and I told Steve when I was leaving, like, this was much needed for a whole lot of reasons. And but yeah, I just want to say thank you, and you guys have been doing amazing work. I mean, when I was there, like, you have no idea how hard these guys are working. So, and since then, I feel like it's become even more work. So, thank you for that.
How are you doing, Beth?
Doing great. How's everybody else?
Good.
Good. How's everything been since you got back to DC, or since you got out of DC?
Well, I miss being there. I wish I could have been there the whole 3 weeks, but I think you guys have done an amazing job, not only with the actions, but also with the live streams that you've been doing, getting up that early in the morning and following everything. That has to be taking pretty big toll on everybody. You guys have done an amazing job, and I just want to thank everybody who helped us get to DC. I want to thank everybody who was there. I think we did a pretty good job with this time.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. We all worked really hard, and you were one of those people that helped pull all of this together. So, Steve, how's everything been since you've gotten back? I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but you were the one in the most precarious situation.
It has not got any less precarious. My my house has got cleaner, but my world has got messier.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But so tomorrow is our last day of actions before we all head out. We decided that we're going back to the Lincoln Memorial, which was the first thing that we did. I guess second technically. But the first like big group thing that we did, we spent a few hours outside there playing some educational stuff, putting up ribbons, passing out flyers. So we're going back to do that again, kind of circling back to where we started for the last event of the 3 weeks here. For those of you that have been watching and keeping track of the court trial, there is going to be at least another week of it. We are going to be going live in the morning to cover the case as long as we can. We do have to be out of the house here relatively early, but we shouldn't be too hard. But next week we will cover the trial as much as we can, at least every other day, if not every day throughout that. So I look forward to having everybody on for that as well.
Have you guys ran into anyone in your respective hometowns that has any fucking idea at all, like what has happened over the last 3 weeks? Because I've not been able to find like anyone except for 1 or 2 people that watch what we do because I like browbeat them.
No, that's the same with me. I mean, I think the only people that have any idea are the people that I'm like browbeating myself or talking to about it. I'll be like, oh yeah, I guess that is good. But yeah, they have no idea as far as especially what's happening with the trial, which they're making that as difficult as possible to know what's actually happening day to day. That's how they wanted it. So again, like the work that you all are doing, and I mean Kevin Gostola, Muhammad Almazi, Joe Loria, I'm just very thankful for the people and Taylor that are doing some amazing work and making sure that this doesn't happen in the dark. But yeah, as far as people just running into people or people in my lives, like not following it so closely. So unfortunately.
Yeah, same here. Nobody's really,
What, Beth?
nobody's really following it in my area either. I try to educate people a little bit, but they just sort of, yeah, okay, whatever, and just kind of go on with their daily life. And yeah, I'm trying to get people to understand how much this is going to impact them at some point. Their favorite, journalist or whatever could end up being next on the chopping block, and they just don't seem to get it.
Yeah. How's everything back in California, Steve?
A good chunk of the state is still on fire. There is 1 to 10 different protests a night in Los Angeles. I couldn't breathe for like the first 3 days after I got back here. That was super fucking fun. Nothing like trying to, do custom and precision carpentry while you're inhaling toxic fucking fumes. That's always great. I would rather not talk about that, and I would rather thank all of the people who helped make getting us to DC possible.
Absolutely.
I would like to let everyone who was there know that I fucking missed the hell out of you guys. I would trade this and go back there immediately, if not sooner. But yeah, for the people that did donate donate to the GoFundMe, like we can't thank you guys enough. We were able to do some pretty incredible things while we were out there. It is likely that this will go to appeals, which makes it certain that we'll be returning to Washington, D.C. at some point. And we were talking before I had to leave about potentially picking just a couple of important dates in terms of this like WikiLeaks history or significant moments that like Julian getting illegally removed from the Ecuadorian embassy. Like I think that an April 11th rally in multiple cities might be a good idea. There's not a lot of give up in any of us anyway. So I don't see why we would all of a sudden start with this.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I absolutely agree with that. And this is why we would like to encourage everyone to do actions in their own community if you're not already. But something too, it's something that Steve and I have talked about in the background a whole bunch, is trying to get 2 different cities where supporters are to do specific like live teaching events, kind of akin to the same way that some people would do like stand-up comedy tours and things like that. So that's something that as the world settles down, we're going to look forward to getting that started back up too and trying to get those planned out.
And if the world doesn't settle down, then we'll have to do it as a traveling road show anyway, because none of us are going to be allowed to stay in one location for too long.
That's very true.
Well, I
I
will
guess, but holy fuck, man, it's been a dark week.
yeah, really. That's what I wanted to, like, how are you all doing as far, I mean, you were on no sleep the week I was there. It looks like even less sleep now. And I mean, this is heavy shit. And especially, you know, the things that have been talked about in the, you know, the trial lately. I mean, yeah, mentally how you all are doing, because it's hard to think. I mean, I've been very upset, you know. I mean, the little bit of personal life that Julian had left, or, you know, privacy, if he really didn't have any, but even that's been taken away. It's upsetting. So hope y'all are
It's
taking care of yourself.
It's been depressing as
going
fuck.
through this week's medical exam has been pretty difficult. But I mean, me, Steve, and Josh are great at making each other laugh, so it makes it a little bit better just being able to get through it that way. At least as we're literally going through it. But overall, just keeping like more or less like your head in the game, trying to get to like the next thing. Like for example, I'm making basically like a little press packet for the independent media, where I'm going through each day of the trial and pulling out the key points of information from multiple sources. So that's something that I've been working on lately. So there's like little things like that that we've been trying to get done.
Nice.
I can compartmentalize pretty well. It's something that I've had to learn how to do out of necessity. And I think I've mentioned this before, like on the vigils or at least on my show, but like at the end of the day, I just dump my fucking brain out anyway. And I'll go, like right now I'm currently reading, there's a couple of authors that picked up the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, and now there's like an extended universe. So that's what I'm reading to dump my brain out at the end of the day right now, and it works like a fucking charm. When I'm at work, I'm mostly at work, but this week in particular has been pretty fucking rough, man. And the thing that like I constantly remind myself when I start to get a little melancholy or woe is me about it is like, none of this shit was done to me. The person that it was done to is the person that we're all fighting for. So instead of like having it sort of break me down, I have to figure out a way to channel it into a more, I don't know, meaningful or positive outlet, because self-pity never did anyone any good.
Right. That's, and I mean, from the first week when Julian did have, you know, he spoke up and like had an outburst. Well, they called it an outburst, but anyway, I mean, that honestly like was probably the only good thing that I could see that happen. I mean, obviously the defense is doing a great job, but like, you know, just seeing him still have that fight in him, you know.
Well, and the context of it, yeah,
Mhm.
is, and Kevin brought this up, Gustola, who's been kind enough to frequently pop into the live streams that Andrew and I have been doing. And Mo popped in yesterday morning too, and that was fantastic. But Kevin brought up that the only things the media, the mainstream media, has really reported on have been the lawyers for Assange letter that a bunch of other former and current heads of state, members of parliament, and whatnot signed. That's been reported on considerably more than the actual trial. And week one's outburst has been reported on considerably more than the trial. And in week one, all he said was the word nonsense.
Right.
and was just chapped immediately by the concierge for the U.S. State Department, Magistrate Vanessa Breitzer. And she was like, I'll fucking have you removed. We can do this without you.
Mhm.
And that got a lot of ink. What did not get a lot of ink was when he jumped up and said, I won't have you censor a torture victim. I didn't get reported on, but here is a torture victim standing up to berate the judge at his own trial for possibly censoring a fellow torture victim. Like that, yeah, dude, that's the kind of shit that like gives me life about this whole thing.
Yeah.
It is just incredibly emblematic of the character of this man, of Julian Assange, that like, had it been reported on, you might have been able to sway some people who were sort of on the fence about it or ambivalent about it, you know, to the point where if you can show a display of character like that, like that's the kind of thing that people want to support.
Right.
Well, I mean, just here in DC, when people pass by and they're somewhat familiar with Julian or WikiLeaks, but not to the details of this case, just breaking down just a little bit of what they've done to him. You don't have to go full in depth because there's just been so much, but just giving a surface level of the sort of torture that he's having to go through. A lot of people have been really receptive to that and kind of surprised. So, I mean,
real quick though, because I want you to answer this, Kimber, and I want it to go kind of around the panel here. A little bit ago in my chat, when we were talking about the whole, potentiality of us being back in DC during an appeals process, a dingo ate me baby, who's one of my favorite fucking people in the chat crew, has been part of this chat since like day fucking one too, like day one. He said Galloway was saying he has more faith in appeals magistrates to be more independent and fair-minded. And what are your thoughts about that? I would love to hear you guys' opinions about this.
I mean, honestly, anybody would be more fair-minded than somebody the prosecutors about, just, I'm really shocked that there hasn't been somebody to step forward and say this is a joke. And I don't really know what the UK's checks and balances look like, but I have to wonder if there's something that somebody could do should this judge decide to rule against Julian, because it's just not right, just on a very surface level.
Right. Yeah, I agree that anybody would be better than Bracer, I think, at this point. And yeah, hopefully in the appeals process, I don't know too much about that process in the UK, but hopefully it could get more attention, and that could always be helpful to the whole case, like we were just talking about with, Julian's character is really unmatched, and they're doing all that they can to keep words like torture out of any headline, no matter what. So, yeah, I think I would be more optimistic about another opinion besides Barista right now. But, but again, kind of unknown, I guess.
Beth, how about you?
Well, I don't know too much about the UK court system or the processes there, but I just have a feeling that it's going to take a couple of appeals before it actually gets to a point where there's going to be independent enough for Julian to get even a halfway fair shake. As long as it stays in Baraiter's court, of course, it's not going to happen. I don't know about the next higher court, but it may take a few appeals before it gets to that point.
I think in England, though, I think they do have more pride in their judicial system than here in the U.S. So I don't know. I mean, again, I just think another opinion maybe is somebody that would have some integrity, and I mean, this case is pretty cut and dry as far as what the decision should be. I mean, But
I forgot who we were talking to about it, but they had mentioned that most of like the appeals judges, like they're already at the top of their career. They're not trying to climb that ladder, and
Yeah,
unlike
they-
Breitzer, so they're more likely to judge fairly because they don't have any consequences for it.
who was that?
I thought it was Mo or something,
I think it might have been Mo. I think you're right.
but yeah, I mean that's a good point.
Because I asked Juan Passarelli in a DM what he thought, and he basically said the same thing too. He was like, "Yeah, they're done with career climbing. They climbed, like they're already there." So there's a chance that because they don't have anywhere else to attend to, that they'll be more open to doing what a judge is supposed to do in the first place, which ironically is something a judge can only do at the end of their career.
So we have Jocelyn in chat. She says, "Hey y'all, thank you so much for all your hard work and for being in DC. Hugs all around." She says, "I hope to goodness there is some way to get him out of Belmarsh while awaiting appeal." Honestly, I hope that he gets out. Well, I hope that the judge rules no extradition and it's the U.S. that's forced to appeal. I think that would be a way better circumstance. And honestly, the way it's playing out with the medical witnesses, because I was rereading the whole first week of testimony today, and I went through Mo's and Kevin's threads, and just the way that like Eric Lewis and Trevor Tim laid their cases out, I think that there's a really I think there should be a ruling of no extradition, but that would require the world to work the correct way. So I hope that at least it's the U.S. that's forced to appeal the decision, just based on how everything's laying out. But we still have another week of testimony, and then maybe even more beyond that. So we'll see how everything works.
I'm just checking to see if there's any. If you guys have questions, like we could treat this like an AMA too. We can go over a little bit of what happened this morning, and credit to Joe Loria, who teaches me something every day. He does a 15 to 20 minute recap of these hearings. The witness, Nigel Blackwood, was the second and final prosecution witness. So we're not going to be hearing from any more prosecution witnesses for the duration of this. And he went first this morning, correct? Am I correct?
I think so.
Yeah, he went first.
So this is the I found it I don't know, at least in my mind, to be a bit of like a comfort, or even a bonus, if you will, that the prosecution is done with their witnesses, because the only thing that they're supposed to do is to go up there and fucking bullshit for 60 minutes to 3 hours, and worm their way around the facts of the case in order to paint not just Julian Assange, but all of the defense witnesses in a bad light. And again, this does not have to be based in reality whatsoever. It's the same thing, I suppose, as like workers' comp assigning you a doctor to be looked at by, and you going to just any random doctor. Like the workers' comp doctor is always going to be like, "You're fine." You can be like, "My arm's gone," and they're like, "Yeah, walk it off." That's what they're there for, which is what the prosecution wants in their witnesses, especially if that witness is a I guess forensic psychiatrist, like Blackwood. But do you want to hit on any of that, Andre?
Yeah, when Fitzgerald was questioning him. I believe Blackwood said, well, one could say that that is the pessimistic point of view, referring to the use of solitary confinement and special administrative measures and a long sentence time. So Fitzgerald even did a really good job of pressing him to be able to get like good quality information out. And I think in both cases, he forced both of the prosecution witnesses from Wednesday and today to admit that they don't know much about the United States prison system, that they're not entirely aware of the workings of special administrative measures, and that I don't think either of them have ever visited a U.S. prison, if I remember right. I still have to go back through yesterday and today's testimonies.
Never once visited a U.S. prison. You talking about the guy that was like, there's 13-inch TVs and
Yeah.
arts and crafts and like bunnies and a petting zoo and it's just the bestest place ever. Like that
If you could pull
guy
up the-
can eat a stone dick. All right.
if you could pull
Fuck
up
that guy.
the picture of James Lewis for everyone, because I just always think it's fun to put this up on screen. But yeah, what Steve's referring to is on Wednesday, the James Lewis, the U.S. prosecutor, read from that 368-page manual that the prosecution gives to witnesses and described the amenities of the Alexandria Detention Center, including arts and crafts, aerobatic exercise.
I think that was 80
They get to-
exploring.
They
To
get to
be
play. They
fair.
get to play bingo.
Yeah.
Woo!
It was painfully comical. Are you finding that picture that I'm
Like
talking
if
about?
prison bingo doesn't make you suicidal. You know?
Like,
I mean, fuck,
jeez.
man. And I don't want him. I'm not making light of any of what occurred in court. Like, I'm just saying, dude, the listing bingo is one of the amenities in your Supermax prison. It does not sound like a high point of the
And arts and
experience to me.
crafts, because who doesn't want glue and safety scissors?
But yes, I actually saved the John Lewis picture or James Lewis picture, so I'm gonna pull that up.
Because I would like Daniel and Beth's opinion on this if we could get it once you pop it up on screen here.
He's
Have
so
you guys seen this yet?
I don't think so. No.
Oh,
Wait, do I need to?
he's such a charmer.
I'm not looking at YouTube right now.
sweet
The suspense is killing me, Steve.
Jeebus.
Hello
There
to
it is.
everybody in the chat, by the way. Love you all.
James Lewis, QC,
Okay.
a charming man with a mega brain.
Oh,
Mega
my
brain.
God. Oh, he is exactly the face you would imagine.
Yeah,
Mega brain.
mega brain. Yeah, mega brain.
I'm gonna steal Door's term on here. He just looks smugnerant, man.
Smugnerant.
No.
Absolutely. I gotta read the full definition of smugnerant again.
So we have a message in chat that I really agree with here. The central issue here is Assange is not getting decent treatment by the judges, the prosecutors, most of his colleagues, because the whole thing is about revenge and punishment. I 100% agree with that. This is, I believe this is how CN Live described it actually, that this is the American
Oh, there went your internet.
Julian.
Re-say that.
Yes, CN Live basically described this as the U.S. empire being put on trial through Julian's case because it reveals the war crimes, the corruption, why the International Criminal Court is going after the United States. So yeah, no, I definitely look at this as revenge and punishment more so than a fair and open justice process.
Right. I agree. And that's why I don't understand why more people aren't outraged about it. I mean, I guess I do understand it, that there's a lot of political hacks, I would say. And Julian, at one point or another, hurt somebody on their team, I guess. So they're willing to look the other way or be mad at him or whatever. But it's just nuts. I mean, everything is upside down and backwards because he's obviously did the right thing. He's this is the good guy, and all the bad guys are just
Not even allowed to talk about what he did. The judge won't even hear about the war crimes, or it's already the fact that he can't defend himself properly because they're already deciding what is permissible. And I kind of figured that shit would obviously happen here. I didn't think it would happen in that courtroom, but it just goes to show my fucking ignorance.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, they want to keep that out of the headlines, just like the word torture, war crimes.
I mean,
Any of the actual documents that were revealed. They don't.
on the plus side, I've seen a lot more independent media actually talking about this shit in the last week or so. So keep up the pressure, people.
Yeah.
Talk
I'm hoping that
talk to
yeah,
your
thank you.
content creators, and if you like their show, and you support their show, make your voice heard. Tell them you want to hear about Assange.
I'm gonna put up a tweet from Lee Camp. It might take like a moment or two to find it, but in a thread, Lee went and said what a lot of people have expressed, and I feel like and he had he shared Kevin's like compendium of good Assange reporting, but 2 days ago, Lee Camp, I absolutely mean this. If you view any so-called news source that is not talking about the Assange trial on a near daily basis, stop trusting, watching, reading that source forever. It quite simply means they are propaganda hacks for the corporate empire. And then here's a list of the outlets actually covering the Assange trial truthfully. And this, we put this up, or at least discussed it, with Kevin, I think, when he was on the other morning. But he's got a very nice just a little list and description put together for the people that are extra miling the Assange coverage.
My favorite part is if you scroll to the very bottom, the very last paragraph, and to Kevin's credit, it's really cool. But he says, and then there's action for Assange waking up every morning doing the live video coverage. I'm like, yeah, like, thank you. So
I was going to let that be a surprise.
Yeah, that just made me laugh, like tucked into the bottom there. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. And I mean, it's 100% true. He's not being harsh. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, that's true.
Absolutely.
And I mean, people need to stop letting, well, politicians, number one, but also like content creators off the hook. Like, what Lee said is 100% true. Yeah,
and interestingly enough, I don't know if you remember back to the first week when wonderful co-host Misty was able to get a response from Paula Jean Swearingen, and she doubled down on the Bernie Sanders sentiment and was like, no journalist should be prosecuted under the Espionage Act, and then just stops. Well, I got
somebody's show just yesterday talking about Julian Assange. Paula Jean Swearingen was.
Well, good, because I got a text message by her campaign this morning asking for $5 to $10 to help get the vote out. And I asked if they could send me the statement that Paula has made about Julian Assange. And she sent me the statement about journalists shouldn't be charged under the Espionage Act, which,
right,
being me, I promptly replied, well, the official U.S. position that they're arguing in court right now is that he's not a journalist. Does she have any statement about him being a journalist and demanding that the charges be dropped? So I'm just interested in seeing if the independent media has the power to make this difference and make these candidates actually say Julian's name, because currently they're really not.
I've seen a couple more in the last couple of weeks.
I will give Marianne Williamson some props. She finally
Marianne Williamson came around.
She did, and I thanked her for it. I don't particularly like her, but credit where credit's due. So
Big up Orb Queen.
So I mean, look, if people do start talking about Assange, thank them. This isn't about just browbeating the people that we think should be talking about this. Like, thank the creators that are, because it's a thankless job doing it. They're not going to make no money off it. They're probably going to get some shit demonetized. They're going to get buried in the algorithm. So thank them, even if you don't like that content creator.
And big props to Nico House. We're not streaming to MCSC right now just because we wanted to keep this a little more personal with the people in the chat, just as like the A4A audience. But he's been letting us do the morning streams on there. We'll probably be doing the Tuesday and Saturday streams on there pretty consistently. So just big thank you to the MCSC network and everything that they're allowing us to do on their channel.
Yeah, and the Convo Couch has been crushing it too. And they're going out like every night to film a protest.
Oh, I mean, the Convo, even if their video isn't about Assange, they work Assange into the conversation, the Convo Couch. So they get mad props for that. Like, every video I've watched of Fee in the last like week or two, Assange comes up every damn time. So shout out to Fee.
Who like challenged me to an anarchist off on their live stream yesterday.
A Poikonism.
I haven't sent her the David Rovik song yet, but I'm gonna. I am. David Rovik has a song called "I'm a Better Anarchist Than You." If you're not familiar with it, you should read it or listen to it and get a fucking chuckle out of it.
Even if you're not an anarchist, it's really funny.
Or it's just fucking hilarious, man. Andrew wanted us to listen to it like 9,000 times in the car in DC.
We do have a
battle
chat.
He told me that I listened to too much music or like too much different music. He told that to me. Listen to way too much music. Like, I hadn't even scratched the surface yet. I had been like, I hadn't even got into fucking Gong or like the really weird Frank Zappa or fucking John McLaughlin and Al Di Meola and Paco de Lucia. Just like I got some shit, boy. You'll hear it whether you want to or not.
Oh, did you say there was a question in the chat?
There was. I don't know where it went.
Oh,
I lost track of time.
Sorry about that. You know.
No, the question was, how do you approach leftists about this that are super apathetic?
Do what?
How do you approach leftists about Assange that are super apathetic?
I remind them of the fact that they exposed Bush war crimes. Because you got to meet people where they're at. So if you remind them that they also exposed Republicans, that's one way. And then another way is you can remind them of the fact that they had a huge hand in the Arab Spring and other uprisings. And I mean, you just gotta disprove a lot of misconceptions that they have. Like their WikiLeaks has nothing on Russia, has nothing on Trump, etc. But I mean, there's always a way to like get that inroad, and you just kind of gotta figure out who you're talking to first.
What I've told people that, and really, like, Fee started to come around more when I told her this, like, whatever it is you care about, whatever it is, if you have a cause, if you are part of an activist organization, its livelihood, its success, all depends on your ability to communicate what it is you want and what it is you're up to as many people as humanly possible. And when investigative journalism goes away, you are not going to be able to put out into the general public exactly why it is you organized and what you're fighting for. And that's what's on the line right now. That's what's really taking place during this trial. They're using the physical person of Julian Assange to murder investigative journalism, and they're going to attempt to murder Julian Assange. They already have. It's in all of the UC Global stuff. Like, this is not new. They're just going through a fucking macabre, Kafka-esque fucking legal charade in order to commit this murder. And that's the literal human sacrifice to kill the rest of investigative journalism. Yeah, you should be fucking mad about that.
Hmm.
You should be in the fucking streets screaming at people about that. Absolutely fucking A right, you should.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and in turn, our First Amendment. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as the question to, leftists or whoever you're talking to, I don't know. It's tough. I feel like some people need to learn it on their own, but I think I would try and figure out maybe what smear did they buy into? You know what I mean? That's why I like Caitlin Johnstone's article debunking all the Assange smears is so important, because if they don't feel like Steve just said, then they bought into something, because they probably, supposedly they care about politics, but they're not paying attention to the most important thing. So they must have bought into some lie, some smear somewhere.
How are you going to say you care about election integrity when they're trying to kill the guy who pointed out to you most likely that we don't have free and fair elections in this country?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We already don't have a democracy. That has been taken from us. So this is our like free speech. At least we could have some. I mean, our media is complete garbage. Like, yeah, this is it. This is the last thing we have to really fight for. So, but yeah, also Juan's documentary, I would recommend showing people that. A very short and kind of to the point documentary. It got my mom to come around.
Hey,
Actually,
that's a win.
yes, I got one person. So,
My best friend, he was, he was not on board, but he's definitely on board now. But it took me a couple of years. But I mean, talk to the people that you love, man. Like it does make a difference, and then they tell people and etc.
If you remember back to I don't know how many people actually do, but the loose change days, back when Jason Burmis and that crew put out that documentary and got it circled at colleges across the country and even across the world. Try burning flash drives. Go online, buy dozens of 2 gigabyte flash drives, put it on it, and pass it out to people and say, "Hey, there's a movie on here. We're using free speech. Check it out." Just little basic, simple things like that can go a long way. You literally just stand on a college campus and pass flash drives out to people. That's how I found the start of the truth about 9/11. And
There's like no college campuses anymore, though, are there?
I mean, that's fair. That's very fair.
No, I mean, like I was talking.
Even door to door, like if you look at even what they were talking about in the court trial, there were these people known as pamphleteers hundreds of years ago that were originally tried for distributing pamphlets about, I believe it was the Civil War, and the British tried to crack down on them at the time for it. So even like basic things like that are so dangerous that they try to keep people disconnected and not talking. So even do some Fight Club stuff and walk around and put a flyer underneath every car window as you walk down the street. Do what you can with what you have and the time and money that you have to do it. I mean, it's what we've been saying here since day one. We just need more people engaged in that way, because if there does come a time where Julian Assange is extradited here, if we don't have the numbers and the people to educate the public that it's happening, he's just going to disappear into darkness. Because once he's here, special administrative measures takes effect, and that's basically the end of all public court trials for Julian Assange.
And his legal team's ability to talk about his case or his condition or anything related to Julian Assange. That also includes his friends, family members, visitors. Again, special administrative measures, one aspect of it means you give up lawyer-client confidentiality. Not that that hasn't already been happening to Julian Assange since 2017, 2018, but they put a literal FBI agent in the room with you and your lawyer. Like, that's I believe we've showed this on screen a handful of times now. Like, that's just real shit. That's the reality of it. We would like to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Real quick though, while I have like people in my chat, and there's like a bunch of I remember like I got high and I made like half my chat moderators one night. I would like to have you guys on Slow News Day on a panel. If you are on Twitter, I'm at Slow News Day Show. Just let me know. But I'd like to do like a 3 or 4 SND mod panel occasionally. And so if you're into that, hit me up. You don't necessarily have to be on camera, but it's way better that way. And yeah, that shit might be fun.
One thing I wanted to go back to the, doing what you can kind of thing. I've always been doing the flyering just around my town, and you were talking about the zip drives and stuff. And right before I got to DC, Juan Passarelli actually posted a QR code of his documentary, and it has like the WikiLeaks logo in the middle. And I was like, oh shit, that's awesome, and just stuck that, like printed a bunch more flyers with that QR code, like on each one of them. It doesn't have to be big. And I did print off some like huge ones too, but that's one way that I don't know how much people use QR codes anymore, but they still know what it's, what they're for. And but yeah, I thought that was a very cool, like, good thing to include in the flyers. So then they'll just have it on their device. So
Well, it's also not just like some random QR code that looks like every other QR code. It has a WikiLeaks symbol. So if people know what WikiLeaks, so that's actually a really good idea, just to print it out. And I don't know if you could somehow do like a stencil of it, but I mean, just even if you can get out there and chalk or just like whatever you can do, just get Julian's name in front of people's faces. That's all we need to do.
yeah.
But I think we're ready to wrap up because we have to finish back in here and we're pushing 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So I would just like to give everyone here a chance to give some final thoughts before we close out for the night.
Well, I'll say I'm super pumped that you all are finishing up at the Lincoln Memorial, because that was my first protest with you all. I know I got there about Saturday or Sunday, but that was my favorite. That was so cool. We were there for 6 hours, just got the best parking spots possible. It was all like meant to be, and just like yeah, and talked to a ton of cool people. It was pretty surreal. It was awesome. So that was my favorite spot. So I think it's fitting that you all will be finishing up there. And I look forward to the pictures. And just to again, thank you to everyone that made this possible. Hi to everybody in the chat. You all are awesome. I'm used to being there instead of here, but yeah, thank you all so much. And just know that, your money went to a very worthy cause. These guys are working their asses off. A lot of the events and stuff, there was so much going on that, we didn't have anybody to like just film or like take pictures. Although we got a lot of good film and photos, but there was just so much going on, and you all were working so hard, and I appreciate it, especially the getting up super early and doing what you're doing. Thank you for that. So, but it's good to see you all again.
Well, I really appreciate that. Any final thoughts from you, Beth?
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to everybody in the chat. I wanted to thank everyone again for all the donations, for helping us to get there, and to everybody who showed up there, even though, not just our group here, but everybody who just kind of joined us, who was in the area. I want to say a big thank you to everyone there, and free Assange.
Kimber?
I mean, just pretty much the same thing that these guys have been saying, which is thank you very much for helping us get there, because No, we were kind of getting nervous in the middle there, and I wasn't sure how we were going to do it, but like you guys just absolutely blew us away. That was something amazing about this community, is just how much, strength we have in our little numbers in our little community, and how we can harness that for good. And it's just very humbling to be a part of it. And so I just wanted to say thank you, and for trusting us to do this and to represent the people who can be there on the ground. Tomorrow is the last day, and it's bittersweet because I'm ready to go home, see my dog and all that. But this has been such a great experience. And yeah, thank you guys.
And again, I would just like to thank everybody in the chat, everybody that donated to make this happen. If you would like to follow us, you can find us on action_4Assange on Twitter, or action4assange.com. In the description down there is a bunch of different calls to action. I want to say there's like 6 of them up right now. Within the next few days, I'll be releasing a full timeline of what's happened through these first 3 weeks of court. And hopefully we can continue to build pressure. We continue to grow as a community, and we can really make sure that we have the ability to prevent Julian from coming to the U.S. basically at all.
No.
Of course, it craps out right when he's.
I thought Steve was giving me a funny look for a minute.
That's how I always look at you, Andre. Always. I love you, buddy. I'm Steve Boykin, and I host a show called Slow News Day. If you're looking for it on YouTube, you type in Slow News Day Podcast into the search bar. I'm on Rockfin and D Live. I do have a Patreon, but if you're a member of it, you should dump it and support me on Rockfin. I never say that bit, and I always mean to, and it just never fucking happens. But that's how it goes. Totally serious about the panel with moderators thing. Email me at spsnd@protonmail if you are not on social media, or if you're already in the A4A Discord, shout at me there. Thank you. Fuck, dude, it's I had to leave DC a little bit earlier than I wanted to. I got to be there for 10 days. I think it was I think it was so much better organized than the first time. Like, we had our shit down, dude. Yeah, I saw some people really come into their own there. It was fan-fucking-tastic. So yeah, to everyone who helped make that possible, just huge thanks. Love you guys. And Andrew and I will see you at stupid o'clock in the morning.
In about 6 hours.
Yep. Good luck to us all.